You need to be looking at your pricing. And you say, no, but I use the standard pricing. Yes, but you may be giving 30 hours of work for $59 a month compared to what I'm putting in, taking care of these patients. How does that compare to the amount I'm charging? Because especially in the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, but this is what I want to do. That's because you have 5 patients. When you have 100, it would drive you nuts. You've got to look at the numbers. Today, we are going to talk about getting paid for the work you already do. Okay? In private practice, it is not unusual to see multiple 6-figure and 7-figure ARs. It's not, accounts receivable is not unusual at all. And this is something that we're going to make a historical fact, okay? This is something that is going to become a thing of the past. We're going to look at this, right? Where we are going to start getting paid for the work that we do. Where the more work you do, the more you're bringing in, right? There are times where private practice can feel like a treadmill. You're working, but the faster you run faster, and it's not creating more stuff. It's creating more stress. It's creating more patients. It's creating a need for you to hire more people. And then the margins are getting smaller. And you're like, wait, it's not supposed to play out this way. Okay. And we're going to stop that. That's the whole point of tonight is we're going to understand what is going on and we're going to understand how to stop it. Okay. The first big thoughts before we get into the nitty gritty is this. First of all, seeing patients is not equal to getting paid. Like seeing the patient getting paid, these are two different things. And so, oh yeah, I have 25 patients on my schedule. I'm so glad our volumes are up. But your volumes being up does not mean that the volume in the bank account will be up. It doesn't even mean that you'll meet payroll. Like seeing that many patients may require that you hire more people and now you can't pay them. Okay. Again, we're going to make that historical fact, but I want you to, like, when you see that you're busy, don't let that translate into your mind that we're making more money because there's something else that needs to happen before that. And we're going to talk about that. Okay. The second thing is having enough money in the bank account to pay for your expenses does not mean you have a healthy profit margin. Okay. It might just mean that work done equals to 0. Like I'm bringing in enough to send enough out. That's it. Okay. So seeing money in the bank account go like, we're able to meet payroll. We paid our bills, all that stuff. Nah, this is not translating to a healthy profit margin, okay? There are things that we need to do. There's a different way we need to look at things. Now, I know when they talk about, like, oh, this business, physicians are not really great entrepreneurs. I want you to unsubscribe from that lie. It's not true. We have learned some of the most ridiculous things. We have learned things so hard that in a country of over 330 million people, only one in 330 people would decide to learn what we learned. Okay. You're super smart. You can learn things. You can learn skills. And this is just one extra skill and we're going to learn it. End of story. Okay. So let's talk about the very first thing. I'm going to give you 3 things. They're going to be so simple. You're going to be like, Dr. Una, really? And really, they're simple, but they're profound. My job is to take complex business principles and make them simple. This is my job. And I know what my job is. So don't be confused by the simplicity of it. Okay. The first thing is you have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. Okay. So true life confession. I was the person who ran away from looking at my numbers. I would not look at a profit and loss statement. I was not going to look at my accounts receivable report. I just would I don't know these things, right? And there's money in the bank account to pay the bills and we are seeing patients. So we're good. Everything is good. I don't have to go know all those things. When I think about them, I break out in hives almost, like in my mind, at least I'll break out in hives. But we have to know the numbers. We have to normalize these things. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about some numbers that we do want to know. And for those of you in direct primary care, direct specialty care, I have a number for you, a number set for you as well. But these are numbers we need to embrace. We need to know. Having a private practice, and I'm a private practice owner. So what I'm about to say, I'm not saying that to insult anybody or to be rude, but I want you to hear me because it's the truth. Having a private practice and running away from your numbers is like being ICU doc and running away from the monitor. Like, I don't want to know what their heart rate is. I don't want to know what that is. Like, what would you say about that doc? Right? Either ICU or emergency department. Like, I don't want to know what the vitals are. Like, oh my goodness, you can't do that. It's like irresponsibility. It's malpractice. It's like, quit, go sit on the beach somewhere, stop working. Right? And it's the same thing with private practice. We cannot not know our numbers. Like, that's like our own little dashboard, like our vitals, like we have to know what the numbers are. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some numbers here. Your AR days. Okay. And if you're like, but I don't know what that is, don't worry about it. There was a time you didn't know what a Krebs cycle was. There was a time you didn't know how to put in IVs. There was a time you couldn't make any diagnosis. You were too scared to take an HPI. Now you're a rock star, all those things. So it's okay. Sit in the discomfort of it. Okay. AR days is a number we need to know. Okay. Insurance-based private practice. This is the time between when you send out a claim and when you get paid. Got to know what that number is. Okay. Are we doing good? Is it like 2 weeks? Is it 2 months? Okay. Because one is like, okay, our patient is doing okay. The other one is like, oh my goodness, we need to run a code. We need to start chest compressions right now. Right? Like, what is that number? What is the trend? Right? What is the number? We have to know what that number is. It tells us something. It tells you when you see this patient, if they get billed on time, then this is what you can expect to be paid. Like, it's just something you need to understand. Okay? You have to know that number. You have to know your accounts receivable, your aging report. Like, how much money do I have in the 0 to 30 bucket, right? 0 to 30 days. How much money do I have in the 31 to 60 bucket? All the way to more than 120 days. You have to know what those numbers are, right? You're going to need a report. You can have your biller send you a report. I look at mine every week, every month, whatever, but you got to know what that is. And in the beginning, you may look at it and you're like, I don't even know what this is, but you can learn. You can learn. And the same way, remember, it's like the ICU doc who says, I don't want to know anything about the vitals. You don't have the luxury. You're a private practice owner now. You're a big boss. Okay. And I want you to think about this. You spend time away from your family to build this practice. You spend time you could be taking a nap to build this practice. You took on the risk to take this to build this practice. The least we can do is put our practices in positions where they can be profitable. If you're not looking at the numbers, you don't know. There's no way to know. There's just no way to know, okay? So your accounts aging report, you want to look at that, right? And you can just start looking at it. Then you'll figure it out. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. Your gross collection ratio, this is a number I like. Of all the monies that your front desk team was supposed to collect on the day of, how much did they collect? Did they collect the co-pays? Did they collect the co-insurances? Did they collect the deductibles? What percentage did they collect? You just want to know. I'll tell you something funny, because this is the thing. You can't say, oh, I know my people are doing a good job. No. The same way an MA doesn't tell you, oh, the vitals are good, and you say, okay. You still look at it. You still got to look at it. So they can't say, oh, yeah, we're collecting the No, you got to look at the numbers. Okay. So this thought process, I had this in my practice many, many years ago, and I was like, okay, nobody goes by our doors if they have not paid their co-pays and all of this stuff. And we had put that in place. We had trained the team. We had coached them up as far as, money mindsets, because of course nobody wants to be yelled at because they didn't collect money and all of those things. And we had put it in place, and it had been running for months. And I came on a workshop just like this. I was talking about your gross collection ratio and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Let me go look at my numbers. Because I was like, nobody goes past my door. You get past the waiting room into the exam room without their co-pays being paid and all of that stuff. I go to pull up a report. It was like 80-something%. I was like, I was just running my mouth the other day. You guys make me look so bad. The numbers don't lie. People do. The numbers don't lie. People do. So Dr. Andrews says, I know I'm bleeding from the front desk not collecting up front. This changes tomorrow. Yes. First of all, I'm happy you observed that. Second of all, I'm happy with the decision you made, because that goes straight to your bottom line, because that's for work you already did. This is not for new patients you're going to find. This is for work you already did. So how much of it was collected? You got to know what the number is. Somebody telling you, oh, we're collected doesn't mean anything. You walking by and hearing them like, oh, your copay will be $20. Like, you hearing that doesn't mean it's being collected. You got to look at the number. You got to know what the heart rate is. You got to know what the respiratory rate is. Okay. The last number I want to give you here, and this is for my DPC folks, is you want to know like your subscription status. Because people are like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm like, And then they go look, and you find out that they're patients you've seen for 5 months, and their card declined 5 months ago, and nobody caught it. How many of those do you need to create a big negative dent in your business, right? Those are things that can be missed. Okay? Your DPC, part of your dashboard is you need to be looking at your pricing. And you say, no, but I use the standard pricing. Yes, but you may be giving 30 hours of work for $59 a month. So something has to give. So you have to look like, compared to what I'm putting in, taking care of these patients, How does that compare to the amount I'm charging? Because especially in the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, but this is what I want to do. That's because you have 5 patients. When you have 100, it would drive you nuts. So you got to look at it. Like this pricing model that I've put here, how does this math? You got to look at the numbers. Okay. So I have had people who are like, my patient will also deserve this. Oh, my patient will also be nice if they have a health coach they can talk to every month. And you'll be nice. And And by the time they're done, they're running out of loss. Patients are doing great, but they're running out of loss. So you got to look at your pricing. So you have to know your numbers. So the first thing is we got to know our numbers. The second thing is we need to be able to translate the numbers. What does that mean? Okay. So if somebody's in the hospital and grandma's sitting by him and his heart rate is 120, grandma's not bothered because grandma can read numbers. Grandma can look at the screen, but grandma has no idea what a heart rate of 120 means. You walk in and you're like, what's going on? Like immediately, like there's something here. Why? Because you can interpret the numbers. You can translate the numbers, right? And so when you see your data from your practice, these numbers that we talked about, you need to be able to translate it. What does this mean? For instance, you have your AR days, maybe it used to be 16 days, and now it's 24 days. Then it's 32 days. What does that mean, right? Like it could mean that your doctors that work with you, it's taking them forever to even send in their claims. Maybe that's part of what is happening. Or it could just mean that your billers who used to send claims same day have changed their mind. And now they send it a week later. When you look at the numbers and translate it, you can find what the problems are so you can fix where you're bleeding, right? Where your practice is bleeding, hemorrhaging. So when you look at the AR days, what does that mean? When you look at the accounts receivable, the aging, what does that mean? So for instance, maybe you look and your insurance piece, like the numbers look good, but the personal balance, you're like, wait a minute, why do we have $2,000 here, $4,000 here? Like, what's happening? It may be that your very good front desk, the person that used to collect, is no longer collecting. It could also mean that your biller decided, I want your AR to look good, and I don't want you to blame me. So they turned everything over to personal responsibility. And you're like, my billers are amazing. But are they? You need to be able to translate, like, what does this mean? You see a specific insurance and buy it. The numbers are just ballooning. For all you know, you just went out of network and you didn't know. And you spent months seeing patients that you're not going to be paid for the visits. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, when you look at the numbers, they start translating the numbers. Like, what does this actually mean? Okay. You look at your gross collection ratio. It used to be really good because you had this person who was really good. They'll collect the copay, they'll collect the deductible, they'll collect the outstanding balances and all of that. And you hired 3 more doctors and you hired more front desk people. So the one person is doing a good job. And these other people, they're afraid of asking people for money. So you translate, you're like, wait a minute. Then okay, I have to have a session with them. And we talk about collecting money up front, right? And talk about how, people will always act like they don't have money, but they pay at Walmart. They have never said Walmart, at Walmart, can you bill me? Can you send me a bill? It's in the doctor's office they say that. They're trained to. They don't say it anywhere else, right? And so the numbers tell you a story. You got to be able to translate and understand, what does this mean? What does this mean? Your subscription status, you see those failed cards. Okay. It means, we need to build in we probably need to build in a policy, to have this looked at in a certain way. It's not a problem. It just means it needs to be fixed. If you're noticing for DPC and you're noticing people love you, high utilization, and month 3, they're counseling. It's a trend. You notice it. You're like, So what that means is they come in, they're getting great care. And so in that honeymoon period, they're super excited. Then they get to the wilderness that always shows up after the honeymoon period. And they're like, is this even worth it paying for all of this? And they cancel, right? What do you want to do about that? And I can give you guys a hint, right? But some of the things you can do is you can help people in their decision to be healthy by offering them annual plans, right? With a better rate for the annual plan. Or you can some people, what they do is they do a deposit that is higher than their monthly payment. So the person has always paid more than they've used. So then they just like, well, I've already invested in this. I'll just do it. It's not manipulation. It's not hiding people in. It's just that you're helping people make the decision they want to make anyway, right? Now, if you translate the numbers, you're like, oh, this is what is happening. Like I'm seeing that the people who do cancel, 80% of them are canceling between month 3 and month 6. I got it now. So I got to know my numbers. I got to be able to translate. I got to know, what does this mean? What does this mean? The third thing, or even when you translate for my DPC folks, again, you got to be able to say, this is the cost of delivery of the services that I'm offering. You have to translate that. This is how many hours. This is how much money I'm spending getting them resources and all of this stuff. This is how much I'm charging. You gotta be able to translate that. So am I at a profit position? Am I breaking even? Am I making a loss? Like, which one is it? You got to know what that is. You have to translate it. So the third one, okay, so know the numbers, translate the numbers, then make decisions and take action based on the data. This is what the best run companies do. They make data-driven decisions. So as the CEO of this company that you own, you make data-driven decisions. It's not based off of a whim. It's not based off of how I'm feeling. We make data-driven decisions. As a physician, what do we do with our patients? We look at the patients, we do all of that, but we make data-driven decisions, whether that's data from a monitor or data we got at HBI or data as we examine the patient. We make data-driven decisions. This is what we need to do if our practices are going to thrive, okay? I have heard people tell me things like, oh, I'm going to do this thing for my patient. The insurance company doesn't pay anything for it, but they really deserve it, and I'm not going to charge them for it. That is not a data-driven decision. There's no universe where that works. There is a cost to doing business. So does that mean we ignore the patient? No, right? The reason why we don't talk a lot about patients in the EntreMD world and all of that is because I know physicians. We love our patients. We care for people. We put people before profits. That's not the issue. It's just that we put people and a lot of things, and then the afterthought is the profits. So I'm just trying to help you bring it closer because it needs to be closer if we're going to survive. That's all. But I know I'm not going to take people out, number one. That's who we are, okay? So it's not about not doing that. But at the same time, we also need to make data-driven decisions. So what that means is if your AR days start getting longer, the data-driven decision is, okay, this is getting longer, which means we're going to start running into cash flow problems, which means I need to talk with the biller. We need to find out what the issue is, and we need to get it resolved. And we are going to meet weekly until this is resolved. I have had so many clients, they try to meet with the biller. The biller is like, no doctor has ever tried to meet with me. I'm telling you, I got it. I'm telling you, everything is good. And I'm like, that's not the way this works. And if you have a biller who insists on that, you need a new biller. Ultimately, you need a new biller, right? You need to have these conversations. You need to have difficult conversations if they're required. You need to have them explain to you what exactly is going on and what the plan to fix it is. Okay? That is a data-driven decision. People have left this to linger long enough that they had to go out of business. And you're on here because you love your patients, you built a practice, you want to have impact in their lives, you want to have financial freedom, and you want to buy your time back and have time freedom. That's why you're here, okay? And because of that, data-driven decisions are required, right? So if your AR days, if they're going out of whack, that's a meeting. If you're looking at your AR aging reports, right? So this is, you build out to the insurance companies and it just tracks like how long it's been unpaid for, right? 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, all of that. If you look at it and you've translated the data, right? Again, you're going to hold the biller accountable. Like, okay, help me understand, right? What is happening with this insurance company? How come this insurance company's AR is just ballooning out? And they're like, oh, don't accept, You need like a concrete answer, like what exactly is going on? I'm going to go look at it. Okay, great. So look into it and then we'll meet at 8:00 tomorrow so we can work through this. You make a data-driven decision. Like we have to have this resolved. You look at your aging report and you see your personal balance is out of whack. Is that the biller handing it over too early? Is that your front desk people no longer collecting the money? And if they're no longer collecting the money, then now you're like, okay, we need to resolve this because I don't pay you from my 401k. I pay you from the money we get from taking care of the patients. So we kind of need to resolve this. And it doesn't mean you become a tyrant, right? So think about it. Okay. How many of you don't want the front desk person's job of collecting money from patients? Be honest. You're like, man, I'll pay them every day because I don't want to do that. So I want you to think about it. You are the owner of the practice. You are bearing all of the financial risk for this practice. You are the one who is figuring all this stuff out, and you don't want to collect the money. You best believe your front desk person doesn't want to collect the money either. They don't want to have that conversation. And so what that means is there may be some coaching. When I say coaching, what I mean is explaining to them the way this works. This is how we get paid. It also means you let them know I have your back. So if somebody comes to you and says, oh, your front desk people, they're awful, they made me pay my copay and all that, it means you don't throw them under the bus. It means that you stand for them. No, that's their job. And that's how I keep the lights on. So their lights on when you come into the office. Like they need to know you have their back, right? And you encourage them and you give them the gift of accountability. Right? The gift of accountability. So, okay. So you talk with them and all that stuff. You're like, okay, but this, we need to fix this. So we're going to come look at it tomorrow. We're going to come look at it the day after that. And if you hold them accountable long enough, it becomes second nature, right? When they collect, you praise them for it. What gets praised gets repeated. Just understand you're the owner. You don't want to do it. I promise you, they don't want to do it either. Right? So give them the support that they need. Give them the training that they need. Give them the empowerment that they need. Right? Encourage them when they do a good job so they can continue to do it. Do you see what I mean? But it's a data-driven decision. You got to make the decision. You got to take the action. You may not want to do because you also don't want to hold them accountable for something you don't want to do, right? But you got to give them the gift because when we don't do these things, again, it's like the ICU doctor who doesn't want to look at the vitals of the patient. This is risky behavior. And so when we don't look at the data, we don't translate the data, and we don't take action based on the data, that is risky behavior for our practices. And we don't do that anymore. Okay? Okay. These things will probably all make you nauseous. Meeting with the biller to hold them accountable will probably make you nauseous. Talking to your front desk person will probably make you nauseous. But that's okay, right? If you do it long enough, you will no longer be nauseous. It'll be great. Okay? Dr. Bedford is a rock star on stage. Like, she kills it on stage. You ask her. The first time she had to go speak on stage, she was nauseous, right? Now she's so good, we call her EBS Oprah. So go figure, all right? So do it nauseous. Your subscription status, if you're, your DPC, your membership status, right? You look and you see there's so many failed things that you're like, okay, I need to change something. So maybe you start introducing annual payments. I've had many clients who have done that. Or maybe you do this deposit so they have a smaller monthly payment, but they paid more upfront. They kind of think about it in a different way and they're less likely to just cancel. Again, that's a decision made. But I want you to think about it. If you have people typically staying 6 months and you implement this and they stay 6 months longer, you double your revenue. You double your like you go back to your practice and you implement this, you just go cut Dr. Luna a check. So I know you said that was free, but I just created so much revenue from that one strategy there. I decided I'll just send you a check, Dr. Luna. But data-driven decisions, okay? So question for you. If you become the CEO who knows the data, translates the data, and makes data-driven decisions, like this is your default setting, what do you think happens to your practice? If you change and you start doing this, you do it for 90 days, you do it for 6 months, you do it for a year, what will happen? You become the person, you know your numbers. You know your numbers. You translate your numbers. You make data-driven decisions on a regular basis. If you are a private practice and you have 2 or more physicians, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars added to your bottom line. Hundreds added, right? And that's what you get. I'm glad that you're going to do this. And as you know, EntreMD, it is our mission. We consider it our mission to help you do this, okay? So when I see doctors who are committed, like I'm committed, you're committed, it's like a match made in heaven, right? And I want to take a moment to show you guys, like on our side, what we are committed to doing to help you pull this off, okay? And not just pull it off once, not just pull it off for a week, But for this to become what you do, how you function, like filling up a patient schedule is something you've mastered. Like, you know how to fill up your schedule. Getting paid for what you do is something you've mastered. Someone might say, yeah, but the insurance companies, this is the deal. The more empowered private practice owners we have, the sooner we can go after the insurance companies. If our practices are not profitable, if we're putting out fires, if we're the ones doing everything and we've not figured out how to unlock our team, we have no leverage with the insurance companies. None. But the more empowered doctors we have, the sooner we do that, the sooner we can go after them. Right? And I cannot wait for that day. So let's do that. Okay. This is something that I have looked forward to doing for a very, very long time. Okay. And that is just like disrupting the entire private practice space, defying the status quo, ending this whole narrative of we're not good at business and what have you. And so yesterday we launched this, which is the Profitable Private Practice Movement. This is about a group of, like, a movement of physicians who have decided that we're not feeding into the narrative anymore. We're not feeding into the victim thing anymore. We are going to build practices that are profitable. We're going to build practices where we've unlocked our teams, so we're not burnt out. We're going to build practices where we can have a lot of impact, and we're going to enjoy medicine. Like, we are going to do that. And really quickly, even before we go past this, if you're deciding, I want that, type it in the chat, like, I want that, right? Like, because the way it is, it doesn't have to always be this way. We can say no. We can decide we want a different experience. We can have that. I've done it. I've helped so many people do it. So it's not some magical thing that may kind of sort of happen. This is a reality for so many physicians, right? Okay. So I see a lot of you saying, I want that. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the movement here. Okay. Now, this here represents my why. Okay. For the last 6 years, I have been looking for every way possible to support physicians, to help them build profitable businesses, to help them practice medicine on their terms, live life on their terms. That is what drove us to launch the EntreMD Business School. This is a number of students, for the in-person events that we had. That is what got us to name a whole month. We called it Private Practice Physician Month. That's August. August every year is Private Practice Physician Month. We launched a book there, the Profitable Private Practice Playbook. And it's like, we just need to just read the book and follow the yellow brick road. Let's go. Let's get profitable and all of that stuff. That's what drove us to create a day. Like, we created a national day, National Private Practice Physicians Day. Okay. Now, this is this art. I'm just going to give a big shout out. This was done by Dr. Lucy Mitchell. She's a physician. She's an artist as well. And she's the one who created the art for the day. But we created a whole day. Why? Like, it's the same mission. We wrote all these books here. Same mission. What are we after? Supporting doctors, right? But I know, to disrupt the physician space, when you look at group practices in the United States, there's over 330,000 of them. I'm like, okay, we need to have a way on a really large scale that we can help private practice owners, even if we get to the point where, like, okay, these are the 5 things we're going to master, so you can be in a position where you understand the profits, you understand how to get your time, you understand all those things. Like Dr. Chiadoze said, you are in control, right? Because after that, then we're in a position to do all the other things that we can do. And oh my goodness, there are a lot of things we can do. Okay. So this is what drove me to say, okay, let's create a movement. Let's focus on these 5 things. Let's get these practices in a place where they're back in control. Okay. So that's the big why. It's the same thing we've been doing. It's just a different container for it. Okay. So the solution we came up with is a profitable private practice movement. And this is a place where we help you unlock profits, multiply impact, live life on your terms. Okay. And this, I am such a firm believer that as physicians, we pay too much of a price to not live the life that we want to live. Okay. You started paying the price from high school. Okay. Like, in high school, your friends will be doing the mostest. You're like, well, I got to study because I need to get into this pre-med thing. If people are in college having a great time, they're like, oh my goodness, I have to do this pre-med thing right because I have to get into medical school. In medical school, well, forget that. I mean, like you just lived, eat, breathed, everything was medical school. And you're like, so I can graduate, so I can get into a good residency program. Residency was 80-hour work weeks. If you're a PEDS, if you're a surgery, the Lord knows what that was, right? And you have all this time you gave up and acquired multiple six-figure debt on the way just to earn the right to help people in the way you want to help them. It is not bad for you to want an ROI after all that time and money you gave up. Right? And so I will support physicians to figure out how to do that, period. Right? Okay. So the profitable private practice movement, and this is the deal, okay? It's very streamlined. We're not going to come and talk about everything in the world. We're going to come and talk about some things. And this is what you're going to master. You're going to have mastery of these 5 things, okay? How do I fill up my patient panel? We looked at some of the 3 of the strategies yesterday. We have a whole lot of strategies. We have a lot more nitty gritty, like how to apply that in real time and all of that, but how to fill up your panel. And so you're never saying, oh, I don't have enough patients to, for my practice to survive. Every single day on Facebook, between the groups that I'm a part of, there's somebody who is saying, I finally made the decision. I'm shutting it down. I don't want you to have to do that. On the other end of the spectrum, I have people who are like multiple millions in revenue, but they have no profits. They don't have enough profits to even pay themselves. I have people who are doing very well on the outside, and they're so stressed out that they're sabotaging their own growth. They're like, I don't want to grow anymore because more growth means more work. I don't want to do it. There is an alternate reality. Okay. So mastery, how to fill your patient panel, your collection practices that maximize revenue. We talked about that a little bit today, right? Like you're getting paid for the work that you actually did. Optimizing your team for efficiency and profits. There's so many private practices. The practice owner is the only person bearing the weight of revenue creation. Imagine if you unlocked your team so every single team member was a profit center. And we're going to look at a little bit of that tomorrow as well. Okay. Optimizing your team for efficiency and profits. So your payroll goes from being this nightmare of an expense to becoming this beautiful investment, right? Revenue cycle monitoring. This is one of the things that physicians run away from. I've seen people with 7 figures in accounts receivable, 7 figures in AR, and nobody's looking at it, and nobody wants to look at it. There have been practices doing multiple 7 figures in revenue that shut down because they just will not monitor their revenue cycle. But not here, because we're these savvy CEOs who are running these amazing practices, okay? And then wealth creation systems. After you get the profit, what do you do with it? What do you do with it, right? Okay. So these are the things that you're going to master, okay? As far as the framework, this is what it looks like. You have monthly strategic lessons. It could be one thing, either how to fill your schedule, the template for revenue cycle monitoring, whatever that is. For the month, there's a strategic lesson that, again, if you master the concepts and apply it in real time, it will create dollars in the bank. Like you heard Dr. Brittany Anderson, she's like, oh, I'm doing this tomorrow. I'm doing this tomorrow. If you talk to her 2 weeks from now, there will be dollars in the bank based on the decisions that she made and the actions she took. Okay. So monthly strategic sessions, a monthly masterclass with the practice owner doing over $1 million in revenue. So we're not bringing people who are, like theorists. We're bringing people who have actually done the work, have crossed the 7-figure mark to come teach specific things. Again, these are specific things that will move the needle in your practice. You get 2 monthly co-working sessions. These are not sessions where you come to talk. These are sessions where you come to implement. So you know about this. You haven't had the time to do it. Now's the time. You've heard about this. You haven't scheduled that meeting with this person. You haven't done the framework for this meeting. You haven't changed this policy. This is the time. Let's get it done now. You haven't talked to any referral sources. No time like the present. We got an hour. Let's go. And it's about implementation. So it puts you in a position where every time you do that and you leave, you're getting better. Okay. So procrastination no longer becomes this thing that gets the better of you. And then tools to simplify the implementations. So think templates, think cheat sheets, think all of those things. And this will be happening. So every Thursday at 12 noon, there's a live session. Every Thursday at 12 noon. So I want you to think about this for everybody who's a part of the movement. Every Thursday at 12 noon, their practices move forward. Every Thursday at 12 noon, their practices move forward. Now, I have not looked at the comments, but I know somebody's going to say, 12 noon, Dr. Una, we work then. We want to do this in the evening, but I want you to hear me. This is part of the training. It is at 12 noon intentionally. Because if you're going to live life on your terms, one of the things you must learn how to do is how to work on your business when you're at work, right? And you will learn it and it will change your life, okay? Now, if you're like, but I can't be there, I can't, sometimes I won't be there and all of that stuff, everything will be recorded. So you can always catch the recording. Recordings will be up in less than 24 hours, okay? Okay, so that's the framework. So I want you to think about this. Every week, your practice is moving forward. No fluff, not all over the place. We have these 5 things that we're working on, and we know every time we get better at it, our practices get better, okay? Now, let's talk about the investment here, because when people work with me, $30,000 is kind of like the investment. That's what that looks like. And when we price this, we didn't make it 30,000, okay? We could have said, okay, let's make it really nice. And if you look at this, you know that this is going to be amazing. This is going to be transformational. And we could have done a third. It could have been 10,000, but we're not doing that. And the reason is we wanted to create this, it's such a no-brainer. I mean, you can ask questions, but you don't even need to ask. It's such a no-brainer. It's such a no-brainer that you just get on board and start working on your practice. Because once we get this right, then there's so many other things we can do, okay? Because my secret agenda is for everybody to build a practice that helps a lot of people, is very profitable, has a really good team. So if you want to exit, you can. You don't own your job. You're not a slave to your practice. Oh my goodness, that's my dream for every physician. I don't tell everybody, but I'm telling you. Okay. So this is a no-brainer. It's $197 a month. Or you pay in full, it's $19.97 for the year, for a whole year. Yesterday when I said this, someone was like, shut up. And I was like, yeah, that's appropriate. Like, because it's ridiculous. Even I know it's ridiculous. My team knows it's ridiculous. But why are we doing this? We want a movement of thousands of physicians who own private practices who are going to crush it and tag your it, okay? So this is our first time of putting it out here this season. People who come in will be the founder members. You guys will be the people who led the movement of people who change private practice forever. That's you, okay? I want you to think about it. This is a cappuccino, $5.95. It's less than 1 cappuccino a day. It's less than a cappuccino a day. And so what do? You sign up for it. It's EntreMD.com/movement. You go and you do your thing. Okay? Okay. So as a founding member, the few things you get a 21-point profit audit checklist. And sometimes people say things like, I'm doing everything and nothing is working. This is a thing that you can use to troubleshoot with your team. If you're like, oh, we're not hitting the numbers we need to hit, this is a simple document you can use to, you could cross off and say, okay, this is where we need to improve. It may not be that there's a challenge with profits, but it may be that you want to hit a new milestone. This is a document you use. The second one is the ideal job ad template, because so many people don't hire, or when they hire the wrong people because they don't actually know what they want. This helps you define who exactly it is you're looking for. It helps you position your practice as the place to work in. And this also becomes the standard for your onboarding and everything. It just makes your life so easy. When I had a pediatrician in my practice quit, 11 months into her 2-year contract, I remember going like, okay, I'm going to need a contract in hand over the next 30 days because I'm not about to have this big gap in my practice. And this was what I used. And in 30 days, I'm not saying it will happen for you in 30 days, but that's what I wanted. In 30 days, I had a contract in hand, straight up. Okay. All right. Then on Thursday, so 2 days from now, I'm going to, for the people who have joined, I'm going to host our very first session, okay, Thursday at noon, and we're going to do the 7-figure private practice blueprint. So whether you are looking to hit your first $1 million in revenue, or you're looking to add $1 million in revenue, we're going to talk about the blueprint, the framework to get that done. Okay, so that's going to happen on Thursday. Okay, there will be a recording if you cannot be there live. If you are somebody who is doing the pay in full, so you're doing the $19.97 for the year, I highly recommend it, because you get complimentary tickets to EntreMD Live, which is our in-person events happening June 7th. It's a Saturday, 2025. You get to come for that. And I mean, $197 a month, and you get 2 months free. Ridiculous. Again, that's why we said it's a no-brainer. It's a complete no-brainer. Okay. this is what I would love for everybody to do today. You cannot change everything in your business today. You cannot make it look completely different, but you can change your direction today. And that's the starting point. That's what changes everything, is you changing your direction. Okay. This is a team. Okay. We're going to have a whole team. These are amazing people. So I'm amazing. I'm Dr. Una. Okay. So strategic director. I will be running those strategy sessions. Makita, who many of you have met, she's the program director, driving the success, driving all of that. Dr. Beckford is the boss of implementation, the director of implementation. So those sessions where it's like, don't talk, just do the work. Let's do the work. Dr. Beckford will be there to hold you accountable. And she's a rock star entrepreneur. She has done this of holding people accountable actually for 2 years, right? So she's really good. That's the zone of genius for her. So if you're ready to regain control of your practice, I was so happy when Dr. Chiadozi said that, because that's exactly what happens. This is for you. If you want proven systems, you don't want the trial and error. I've been in private practice for 14 years. I've helped thousands of doctors with private practice. We've watched the trends. If you're looking for proven systems that drive growth, then this is for you. If you're committed to creating a practice that's not a job, that is not, it doesn't create its own golden handcuffs, but you want one that supports your dreams, then this is for you. Okay. So we made it a no-brainer, so you don't have to overthink it. Okay. If you listen to the podcast, or you were here today, or you were here yesterday, you know that we are all about over-delivering. We're all about helping people move forward. So now is the time to take action. Now is the time to join the movement. This has never existed. This is the first time this has existed, and it will rock your world. Okay. So EntreMD.com/movement. Go sign up. We're looking forward to welcoming you. I cannot wait to see you on Thursday. And we're going to, I want you to think about when people are the most distracted in December. You actually get together to come look at your 7-figure framework. Like, okay, this is, if I want to hit my first million, or I want to, add $1 million, this is the way to go. Right. And so when you step into 2025, it's not guesswork. You've already mapped out the plan of what you're going to do. Okay. So that's the link, EntreMD.com/movement. Go register, go join the movement. And remember, the worst place to be is in the valley of indecision, right? You can be like, oh, absolutely, I'm doing this, or absolutely not, I'm not doing this, but not, I wonder. That place is a bad neighborhood, right? You want to be in one or the other. And this is the thing, when you think about it, is it the price? It cannot be the price. The price doesn't even make sense, even to me, even though I talked about it so many times, right? It doesn't even make sense. It's less than a cappuccino a day. Okay. So that's not a thing. Okay. Can they deliver the results? We've done it for years and years and years, and for people and people and people. And so are you committed to your dreams? Absolutely. Then just go for it. Okay. Okay.